Welcome, friends, to the PW Fan. The PW Fan is a pro wrestling podcast created by fans for fans, and we appreciate you joining us. I am your host, representing the old school wrestling fan, and your favorite barber, giving you the best haircuts you've ever had, Tim Gilbert.
And I'm your host, obsessed with indie wrestling, Jeremy.
I'm your host, the architect of pro wrestling podcast, Andy.
All right, guys, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about AEW Dynamite first, and then we'll talk a little bit about NXT and a little bit about SummerSlam. But let's jump right into Dynamite. Andy, take us through the show, and I know you have all the notes, and we're going to get right into it.
Last night's Dynamite on the 25th opened with a match of Orange Cassidy versus Matt Hardy. They had been feuding for the past couple weeks, and it ended with Cassidy as the winner. I thought it was a pretty good match. I'm pretty sure he broke his nose doing a crossbody. As in, Orange Cassidy broke Matt Hardy's nose doing a crossbody. It just was gushing as soon as he hit that. Overall, I liked the match. Fans were into it, and good start to the show.
Yeah, I also liked it. I thought it was a great opportunity for AEW right after CM Punk debuting on the previous Friday to have new eyes on it. And it's kind of interesting how they chose Matt Hardy and Cassidy as the first match. Just because Matt Hardy, everyone knows who he is if you're a wrestling fan. And then Orange Cassidy, of course, the new guy in AEW that's going to be, in the main event, for the next few years, I think. But yeah, I think that was a good opening match. It was definitely landed straight on his face. Cassidy did on Matt Hardy. And so he was gushing blood, it's always nice to see in the opening match for a AEW show. So what do you think, Tim?
They love busting open Matt Hardy in AEW.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I absolutely agree with you about being an interesting choice to have Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy be the ones to open the show. You would think that after having that big Rampage debut that they might choose something else to start the show because there's going to be all these new eyes on the product. You would think that they would want to put their best foot forward and putting something that's really going to blow people away. With that being said, though, to be fair, it was one of the better Orange Cassidy matches I've seen. It did start with a little comedy, which the more episodes we do, I think the people listening will come to realize the comedy stuff is not my thing, but I do not hate it. I just thought it was an interesting choice for that to be the first thing that they decided to go with. But, of course, the fans who are already familiar with AEW, they love Orange Cassidy, and they enjoyed the match. Yeah, he went for that crossbody and came down right across his face. And actually, I was watching it with my wife, and her eyes were actually at the TV, too. And I think we both kind of realized, like, oh, that had to hurt. And he rolled over near one of the turnbuckles, and I started noticing that he was bleeding. And I was like, oh, yeah, he definitely broke his nose, at least. I did notice in this match that Matt Hardy was pretty dominant throughout the whole thing, and Cassidy did not get much offense in. He got a little bit of a comeback spot, and then he won with that pin where he had the hands in his pockets, the pocket cradle. I gave it 3 stars, strong opener. I just thought kind of a weird choice if you're going to have all these new people watching. I would have started, to be honest with you, with a high-intensity Young Bucks tag match. Like, put what you do best forward. And even though that's not my favorite type of wrestling, if that's what AEW, if that's kind of their thing, I thought that might have been something to really start the show. Like, maybe do another Lucha Bros versus Young Bucks match or something just hot to start the show.
I will say, Orange Cassidy doing a swanton bomb with no hands in his pockets. I popped for it.
Yeah,
he also went for a twist of fate, I believe.
That's impressive what he can do with his hands in his pockets.
It really is sometimes.
Anybody else think he looks like Ryan Gosling?
A backstage promo. Oh, Jesus.
I mean, now that you say that.
Yeah. Now it's all I'm going to be able to see. So after the match, we have a backstage promo with Malachi Black. And overall, he was just talking to Arn and talking to Brock Anderson. telling Brock that, his father should be scared and that Orange should pretty much stop Brock from going out there. Or Malachi was telling Brock, to rethink pretty much everything. But that backstage promo, which had to do with their match that would happen later that night, led to the Jericho segment where Jericho came out to the ring to talk about the future of his career. And he was talking to MJF and how he lost, the past 3 times. In the end, challenged MJF to a 4th match to prove that MJF really is better than Chris Jericho. And in the end, Chris Jericho, I guess you could say, put his career on the line for this match if he loses.
Yeah, I think that was basically the only way that they could have done this match again. I do think when they set up the 5 labors of Jericho that he had to get through 5 matches before getting to MJF, but they had him as the 5th one. How they've done it this far, with him being the 5th, that's probably as best as they could have done. I do feel it was kind of out of order with the Nick Gage match being 2nd, and then, Wardlow being 4th, which kind of seems like he should have been either 2nd or 1st. Jericho, as always, gives a great promo. I think it might have went on a little bit too long. Yeah, I'm excited still for their match at All Out. I'm sure Jericho's probably going to win because he's not going to retire from wrestling yet.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly touch on the Malachi segment, which was right before that. I really like that Malachi gets to cut his own promos now because he has really good intensity, and it's a lot more believable than some of the kind of hokey or scripted stuff he was having to do on Raw. But now that he speaks for himself, I think he has really found a good voice for himself. As far as the Jericho promo, yeah, I thought I agree with you in a lot of aspects, Jeremy. I thought the whole Order of the Labors of Jericho was kind of interesting, kind of random. I thought the Hoovy one was maybe a bit of a stretch. Although I did end up enjoying the match. It was fun to see Juventud because I grew up watching WCW, and that was fun for me to see. But yeah, so I guess that they're having a match where Jericho puts his career on the line, and that if he loses, he'll never wrestle again. He'll do commentary and other things, but he'll never actually wrestle for the company. It's probably one of those things where I really don't know. Like, I could see him maybe stepping away from the ring and just doing like behind the scenes stuff and playing with Fozzy for a while and putting MJF over. But I can also see him, this is being like one of those storylines that kind of blurs the line a little bit and you just don't know. I overall have enjoyed their program. I do think it's time for it to come to an end, though, and MJF to finally kind of move on to something else.
I'd completely agree with you. Their program has been going on, I guess, I would say for months and months. And at times, even though it's not just them being one-on-one, them being at each other's throats, though, has been going on in some way, shape, or form for the past few months. Whether it was as a team, against each other on separate teams or one-on-one. It's been going so long. I think you guys are right. This is probably the only way they could probably get another match out of the feud.
Yeah, it's weird that they went from a blood and guts match, which is usually the end of a feud, and now they're going 2 more or 3 more after that.
Doesn't it kind of feel like they called an audible where like Jericho was going to maybe be done, and then they're like, let's do one more. It kind of has they kind of decided last minute, like, maybe we should do one more. And now they're doing this. Like, they kind of threw it together a little bit. I kind of get that vibe.
It kind of does. And it kind of does. And, they're adding it to All Out now. So they get a good stage to do it and, fills up the card a little bit. And, I still feel like fans are always going to be down to watch both of them. One's a mega heel that people love to hate, and everyone likes Jericho. Next up, we had, I think it was the semifinals for the tag team tournament that's going on for the Young Bucks titles. It was Lucha Bros against the Varsity Blondes. The winners were the Lucha Bros, and at the end of the match, the Elite came out, and so did Jurassic Express, who are going to end up wrestling the Lucha Bros in the finals to see who goes after the Young Bucks. And the Jurassic Express ended up teaming up again with the Lucha Bros to fight off some of the Elite when they started attacking them. But I thought it was a good match. Ray Phoenix always, blows my mind. He is fantastic and extremely fun to watch in the ring. What did you guys think?
Yeah, every time the Lucha Bros come on, I'm like, they're amazing to watch, especially Ray Phoenix. And their teamwork also was, can tell that they're an actual tag team. They're not just two guys put together. I love the ending when the Young Bucks came in and pushed the Trax Express into them and then try to act like, oh, they're trying to attack you. Finally, a company that doesn't let their babyfaces be stupid people and actually being like, no, it's obviously them pushing them into them. And just that is like always makes me happy. And then they go up and beat up the Young Bucks, and it's a nice ending rather than having them start brawling for no reason.
In the finals of the tournament, Jurassic Express against Lucha Bros should be a really good match too.
Yeah.
So I really don't know which direction they're going with them, with winner wise, but I'm sure it's gonna, be a fantastic match. What you think of the match, Sam?
I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
Hot take. Now, I know both of you like it, but I'm sorry. Just a guy that's dressed up as a dinosaur just doesn't do it for me. And then, not to mention, you got two guys that dress like they're in high school, and they got a high school cheerleader with them, which is pretty weird. My wife even said, she said, are they supposed to be in high school? I said, I can't really tell. She said, it's kind of weird, don't you think? I said, yeah, maybe a little bit.
I thought you liked Brian Pillman Jr.
I do. I love Brian Pillman Jr. I definitely feel for him.
Just don't like the gimmick.
No, and I'm not a huge Lucha Bro person either, but I know that the AEW fans love all of these teams, and they're all super over. I thought it was a good match overall from that perspective. I gave it 3 stars, but, because I want to make sure when I always do my ratings that I consider the fans all around. It's not always my taste and my tastings that are going to be the things that I can judge a match based off of. I also understand that in certain environments, certain crowds like certain things, and it works there. So yeah, I think I gave it a pretty decent rating, 3 stars, and I thought they all worked really hard.
So you're saying you don't like Penta dress up as the Joker?
No.
Even I don't like that.
I was like, that's something he spent so much money on. He's like, you know what? I'm wearing this.
He wears it all the time, I feel like. It wasn't just a one-time pay-per-view thing.
Right.
So after that match, you had Jamie Hayter, who recently returned to, be with Britt Baker, versus Red Velvet. Winner was Jamie Hayter. Thought it was a nice match. I never really watched Jamie Hayter before, but I think she's pretty good after that being like the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I enjoyed her. I feel like she's gonna be pretty good coming up. She gets more exposure and everything. Red Velvet, we haven't seen much of her, and also what we've seen so far hasn't been always that great. I think. I mean, other than the match with Cody and when she tagged with Cody versus Shaq and I forget her name right now.
Jade Cargill.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that was pretty good. But that also could be the chemistry between those two. So she doesn't really have too many other matches, and especially going up against Britt Baker when she did in Pittsburgh, it's probably not a good idea for her trying to be a babyface right away.
No.
I like Jamie Hayter, so want to see more of her. What do you think, Tim?
Jamie Hayter, I'm glad that she was in the match, because if she wasn't, it probably would have been kind of rough. Red Velvet, she's green, and maybe with some time she'll be better. There are like wrestlers that you see who can have a good match, but it doesn't mean that they can have a good match with anyone. One thing that I always think of back in the day is in the early 90s, Johnny B. Bad. He was a guy who he could have his match, but anything outside of that, he couldn't really have that match. And that's just being green. And then he ended up becoming Mark Marrow in the WWF, Sable's ex-husband, and I thought he improved as a worker. But I think as time goes on, Red Velvet will improve, and I think we'll be seeing more both of them for sure. I know they're trying to build their women's division. I gave the match 2.5 stars.
All right, so after that, we see the Dark Order backstage, and there seems to be some, I guess you could say, turmoil within the group ever since Hangman Page stopped hanging around and they didn't save him the 1 week from getting attacked by the Elite. That backstage segment led into CM Punk making his Dynamite debut. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so first thing, I want to talk about the Dark Order segment, because the Dark Order storyline has been like one of my favorites in this past month. There's their evolution as a group, and also after Brody and everything. So kind of having them split, and then I think, everyone's thinking they're gonna maybe they'll have a match, and then it kind of ends their split, and then they'll come back together, and Hangman comes back with them, and it's a nice long-term storytelling. I hope that's what I'm hoping.
Or maybe Bray comes in and becomes the new leader.
That'd be awesome.
In Brody's spot. You never know.
I would love that.
I agree with you. When the company first started, and I think Tim would agree too, we absolutely hated.
Oh, they were terrible.
Terrible. And when they first debuted, I think it was it Double or Nothing? They first debuted, and they had a chair or it was like a throne of people.
Yeah.
A throne of Order members. I did not understand what was going on. I had no idea who they were. But over time, they've really grown on me, and some of them are really funny. I don't watch things like, I just don't really ever check out Being the Elite. I know they're on there a lot, and they have a lot of funny segments, but even the stuff they just do on TV is funny, and I don't know, yeah, just overall, they've really grown on me, and I did like their storyline that they had going on with Adam Page trying to convince him all the time to join.
Yeah, that was part of, they call him Johnny Hungy now. Part of the reason why he got over was because of that show, BTE. Yeah, I hope that storyline works out, because I'm a huge fan of them. Now I am, at least.
Johnny Hungy.
But yeah, going into CM Punk, which is one of by far the best segment on this Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
He still got a pretty good pop, even though it was kind of Milwaukee and it was a smaller arena, but they were still going crazy. And
you can't beat a CM Punk in pop in Chicago.
Yeah, that's you can't follow that.
Yeah.
And his promo is I forget how good he is at promos, just from 7 years away, and just him being able to control the crowd and kind of manipulate them into any way that he wanted them to go into. And then, of course, he drops that Bryan Danielson moment when he just says that someone else should stick, and you just need to be a little more patient.
Yep.
And then the place goes insane.
It was awesome. Pretty fair to say all of us are pretty hyped on the Punk train right now. Happy to see him back in wrestling. I really believe in CM Punk. I believe that he doesn't want to do bad wrestling. I know he loves professional wrestling, and as a fan who views pro wrestling a certain way and likes a certain type of professional wrestling, he's right up my alley of everything that I like about wrestling and what he stands for. One of his favorite wrestlers is Harley Race, who is one of the legendary, most traveled NWA world champions of all time. Rest in peace, Harley Race. So, yeah, it's really great for me to have CM Punk back. I thought he cut an extremely strong promo, just like his original debut. He has a lot to say, and I think he's really excited to work with the young talent. I know he really likes Darby Allin. I think it would be fair to say that they're probably either friends or buddies or cool with each other behind the scenes. They're both straight edge. They both like punk rock music. I'm sure they vibe, even though one's a lot younger than the other. So I'm really looking forward to that match, and it's been really awesome to see CM Punk back, and I can't wait to get my hands on one of those shirts. If they could stop selling out, that'd be awesome.
I think it's a really good choice as a first match for Punk. Like you had said earlier in the podcast, when we were talking about the opening match, and all these new eyes now on the company with CM Punk being back. Those new eyes are gonna be introduced to someone like Darby Allin by tuning in to see CM Punk. And for the people that have been watching AEW since it, came out, Darby Allin is a household name. But outside the AEW world, if you're just tuning in, you have no idea. And so piecing or putting together CM Punk with him is just fantastic.
If you think about it, it's a great too, because if you haven't watched wrestling in a long time, but I get what you're saying, Andy. If you haven't watched wrestling in a long time and you like CM Punk, and then all of a sudden you see Darby Allin, you're like, well, this guy's pretty cool too. What's this dude about? And by association, you're kind of exposing him to an even bigger audience. And I think it would be probably fair to say a lot of Punk's fan base, if they don't know who Darby Allin is, which that's probably unlikely, but if there's any that don't, they would probably be down with his whole gimmick and his whole vibe.
I'm sure they share fan bases. Same people
absolutely.
Like CM Punk probably like Darby Allin.
And the way that Punk talks about Darby's dives, it's like, I really hope he takes a few during their match.
I'm sure he will.
Speaking of dives, I saw a video going around the internet of a guy's getting ready to dive out of the ring, and he doesn't get enough momentum, and he kind of stumbles, and then he kind of falls, but it's in slow motion. Nobody got hurt or anything. It's just the most bizarre thing. He was going for a tope suicida and just stopped running, and then just kind of fell out. I actually sent the video to Jeremy before we recorded.
I haven't seen this at all.
I'll look it up after. I'll send it to you after the show.
So after CM Punk, there was a backstage segment with Miro talking about his upcoming match with Eddie Kingston for the TNT title, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that's going to be at All In, I believe.
At All Out?
Or All Out. I always forget which one it is.
I think it will be. They didn't announce that. They just kind of started building that, which kind of wish there was a little bit more build to that, because Eddie could make that into a great feud.
Yeah, and he's really good at promos too. They would have been able to sell that pretty well. Considering the CM Punk segment just happened, the first match we have after that, and after the Miro segment, is Darby Allin teaming with Moxley and Eddie Kingston against Ryan Nemeth, J.D. Drake, and Cesar Bononi, and they're known as the Wingmen. Now, to me, this is the first time I'm seeing the Wingmen. I don't know if they've been on Dark.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But the winners, as you can probably guess, was Darby Allin's team of Mox and Eddie Kingston.
This was a very random match to me. There was no build. There's nothing. They just kind of had a match for what it was. I mean, I always liked the Moxley match, like Eddie match, and Darby match. So I was happy that they were there, but it just seemed awkward.
What do you think about Moxley now coming out to Wild Thing all the time?
That I liked it at first. Now I'm kind of like, can you just go back to the? And also the way he walks to the ring now, it's like very slow and methodical. I don't know. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, Moxley used to come out like all intense. He'd be like snorting like a bull. There'd be like water. People would be like hyped. There'd be like lights going. Now he just walks out all slow. I'm like, all right, it's kind of a different take on it, but I feel like it's almost threes across the board tonight for me. Yeah, another 3-star. Again, I would never. It's hard for me to give stuff lower than a 3 a lot of the time, because I just have a lot of respect for the people that are working the match, and that they put a lot of things on the line, especially their safety. But yeah, 3 stars, solid 6-man. Again, very random that it was even on the show, but it was fun to see some of those guys. So, and I understand getting new eyes on the product. They probably wanted to get as much new stars on the show as possible to show, hey, look, if you remember Dean Ambrose, we have him too. So
after that match, we had a backstage interview with Ty Conti, who I want to say I always wanted her to get pushed more in NXT. And I don't know why she never did, but it seems like ever since she got to AEW, she's gotten a lot better, and she's being pushed more and more. I see her, being a headliner in the women's division in over time. Most of her matches are usually pretty good, depending on who she's going up against. After that, though, we had this FTR promo, which I don't know where I've been. I had no idea that Cash Wheeler basically almost died and ripped open his arm on a. It was
You
like
didn't
a
see
hook
that in that match?
on the turnbuckle. I must have completely missed it. And I was kept rewinding in like slow motion last night because they kept showing it. I was like, oh my god,
Oh, it was bad.
it was gnarly. I'd been wondering where FTR. I'd been wondering where they had been because Sean Spears has been on TV and Tully, but not them. So, but they're doing a promo about if they want to do one more match and if it is their last match, depending on how Cash heals, they're gonna do another match against Santana and Ortiz. I don't think they announced when, but I think they were trying to get the people, not to really forget about them and let them know, hey, we're not done yet, just yet. We at least have one more in us.
Yeah, I don't think they announced when, but this feud, I feel like it was very hot right before they had their big match. And then
Yeah, I
once they-
remember the build to it. I just don't remember that incident, which is a huge incident to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And you
It
are
was
a very
nasty.
detailed note taker. The fact that you don't know it is like, wow.
I know. I must have just popped out of the room like right away or something, or just like looked
Yeah,
away
it
really
happened
quick
quick
during that
too.
time.
I think they like realized the doctor was right there where it happened, so they realized how bad it was.
Because I think was it like Fight for the Fallen that they wrestled?
Yeah,
at?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know how I missed it.
Yeah.
But up next we had the Kenny Omega and Christian segment. Personally, I love this feud. I thought their first match was great. Kenny, I've really started to enjoy this version of Kenny with, the shit talking Don Callis with him, and Kenny's kind of in a way almost doing that cowardly heel. They're hyping up their match for the AEW Championship at All Out. I can't wait for it. If it's, even just as good as the last one, that'll be a win for me, no matter who wins the match.
Yeah, I love this feud as well, which I didn't think I was going to when he first came out, Christian Cage, and that was like a few weeks ago when they announced it, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be him and Kenny Omega at All Out. It wasn't that exciting, but now I'm like fully invested into this, and also Don Callis doing like a Ric Flair, was ripping all of his clothes off and act like he's gonna fight.
Sorry, did you hear last night? 2 times in a row, Christian was saying something to Kenny, and Kenny's like, "You think you know me?
Yeah,
You think you know me?"
yeah. Yeah, that was hilarious, and like I love how Kenny drops all those stuff. Like before Punk debuted, he was wearing that chick magnet shirt or like the Cookie Monster because that's what people think that it stood for. Yeah, this feud, yeah, I can't wait to see their match now because their first one on the very first Rampage was one of the best I think in AEW ever. Like I'm definitely in the top 5 or even top 10 maybe, and it was kind of surprising that Christian won, which I think was a big thing, and I was so happy about. So. Yeah, I can't wait for this.
Yeah, their first match, I think the last time Jeremy stopped into the barbershop for a haircut, we were talking about how my 2 favorite matches in AEW history so far is the Dustin and Cody match from, is that the first pay-per-view? I believe it was, right?
Pretty sure it was Double or Nothing. Yeah, their first.
Yeah, that first
their
one.
first official pay-per-view.
And then
that was a great match.
other favorite match is from the first Rampage, which is the Christian and Kenny match. And I said my only thing with that match is I wish they got a little bit more time. So I'm really hoping now that they're having it on pay-per-view, they're going to have that time to make it. I mean, it was already an awesome match, but just to take it that one step further, because Christian, he's great. He's one of those workers who, even if you're like, oh, Christian's cool, sometimes you'll watch him wrestle and then you'll get so sucked into the match and you'll be like, oh my God, like he's fantastic. And I feel like, unfortunately, sometimes he almost gets like forgotten about as like just like how good he is in the ring. I remember as a growing up, Christian was never one of my favorite wrestlers. I didn't appreciate Christian until I really started watching and being a more fan of the in-ring stuff rather than the storyline stuff. That's when I learned to appreciate how excellent Christian is as a wrestler. So I'm really excited for the match. Don Callis is so good at his role. I hate him, but that means he's doing a really great job. So good for him.
Yeah, Christian, in the same boat as you. I never really liked him. Edge was always the favorite. But then if you go back and watch some of his matches with Randy Orton a little bit before, I guess he retired. I think they have a match at SummerSlam.
They had a bunch of matches for the World Heavyweight title.
Yeah, just a really good worker. And I don't want to say he's a good hand because he's more than that. I mean, the fans are really into him. You can see it when he's out there with, the champion. But, and as you're saying, time-wise, hoping they'll have more time, since this is for the AEW title, it should be the main event. So it should be, time remaining or whatever they say in the company for the end of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think AEW, especially, they're like, the title is the main event no matter what, no matter who has it. And I think the pay-per-view can go as long as they want.
I like that's a very old school thing of them that they really do they still try to make the title be the number one thing, and it usually closes out the show, which I still appreciate.
So after that, we have a backstage segment with Moxley, which leads into another 6-man tag. It's the Factory, headed by QT Marshall versus the Gun Club, and the winners were the Gun Club. And we had Paul White on commentary doing it, I would say, because he's wrestling QT Marshall at All Out, I believe, right? They're not saving it for a TV match. They're saving it for his
All Out
in-ring AEW debut at All Out, right? Yeah. So winner was Gun Club. Lots of tag matches on that show.
Yeah, this match I don't really care about, to be honest. All I want to see is Paul White or Big Show.
The same way,
Big Show just knock out QT Marshall in 5 seconds, and then that's it. I'll be happy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When Andy started talking about this match, I forgot that it was on the show. I do remember hearing, I do remember hearing Paul White's voice on commentary at some point. Like, that's in my brain, but I don't even remember the match. I'm looking at my notes here. I unfortunately I don't think I have a star for it either. So we'll have to move on.
So, and I never understand the purpose of bringing this guy on, but we have Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page out back, along with the owner of American Top Team, Dan Lambert. And all he ever does, anytime he's on TV, is just makes fun of the fans for liking wrestling. I don't know if it's just to get some heat, because Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky are already heels. So I don't know if showing them with him just gives them even more heat that they're trying to do. But every time he's on TV, he just makes fun of the fans and say we're all losers for watching AEW wrestling.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I find it actually really funny, and he's a very good promo too, which is like even funnier to me because he's ripping people apart. I'm like, yeah, just keep going, man. Like, this is hilarious. But also, I don't get it at all. So there's two sides of, like, it's very entertaining, but then I'm like, where is this going at all? Because there's no storyline to it. It's just he hates AEW, but he keeps showing up on AEW.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
He reminds me of, like, if Bill Burr and Jim Cornette were wrapped into one person. Yeah, he I mean, look, I get a kick out of what he says. I think it's funny, but I don't really know where they're going with it. Well, I'm sure it'll lead to something where
he's just a troll. That's all he is.
But he does get real heat. Like, those people, he says some stuff that really gets some of those AEW fans like actually angry. And he, like Jeremy said, he is a good promo. So we'll see what happens.
So then we got Arn backstage talking about Brock's upcoming match against Malachi Black, which is up next and the main event of the show. Malachi Black comes out first, then Brock Anderson. The winner was Malachi Black in quick fashion. He beat him, of course, with the Black Mass. Afterwards, he goes for a Black Mass against Arn. Arn actually blocks it. Malachi Black low blows him, then gets it on Arn. Black leaves the ring as Lee Johnson comes out to try to help Arn and Brock, but Malachi's already gone, and that's the end of the show.
So you're telling me the first person to block Malachi Black's finisher is not even an active wrestler.
The Enforcer.
He didn't even that was
he was like
Neo in the Matrix when he was blocking all, not even looking at the agent guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this match though, I would have preferred Malachi Black just come out and then the bell rang and then Brock didn't get out of the ring, and I would prefer him to run and then just him get kicked in the face. It's over.
Just right away.
No offense for him.
Quick fashion. Yep.
Yeah. And then I
thought that's what was gonna happen. The way they were hyping up about being scared and you shouldn't fight him, that's what I thought was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Tim's happy that Black isn't wearing his jiu-jitsu shorts.
He didn't like
he's
that?
He's back to wearing just the regular underwear tights, looking like how he did in WWE. Oh, on his debut.
But yeah, I don't understand who ran it then? Lee Johnson?
At the end, yeah, Lee Johnson.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Well, when he ran at the end, I was like, why is Malachi Black getting out of the ring? He just kick him in the face.
He should black mask him too.
Yeah.
Take out everyone.
Yeah.
Is that what
Big
he's
pop.
calling the move in AEW?
Yeah, I actually just checked while we were talking about it. It's still called Black Mass. I mean, his
We have
last
confirmation.
name in the show. Yes, in the show, his last name is also Black. So, I guess it still makes sense. I don't think WWE owned the rights to the name, so.
Yeah, I really thought that Malachi was going to go in there and destroy him quickly, but I'm sure Arn behind the scene was like,
Yeah.
Tony, you gotta let my son get at least something in, okay?
Overall, though, I thought it was a good show. I will say, after, pandemic era, I've really just been enjoying the fans being back, and it's making all these shows just 10 times better.
It's been excellent having everybody
it's so much
back.
more energy and
Yeah, it really is.
So after the Roman and Cena match, which Roman won clean, I was shocked by, but I was like, okay. Brock came back and got a big pop. And are we all in agreement that we're assuming this is
Huge.
This
pop.
is for the Crown Jewel pay-per-view that they're doing this for?
I would say so. I also read on, dirt sheet stuff that his new contract is for 1.5 years.
We're going to have designs on Pro Wrestling Tees here soon enough, guys. And I'm already thinking that's going to be a shirt soon, dirt sheet stuff.
But the rumor originally, I believe, was that Brock, they weren't going to do this feud again until WrestleMania 2023. And for some reason, they fast-tracked it. I guess the Prince wants to see Brock wrestle over in Saudi Arabia.
at least he chose someone that's alive this time.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's supposed to show up to SmackDown this week, I believe. And also, Becky Lynch is supposed to show up to SmackDown this week, who also came back at SummerSlam and made quick work of Bianca Belair and is now, once again, the women's champion on SmackDown.
So I think first, we'll go over Brock real quick and then go into Becky. Because Brock's return, I really liked it. And the pop
Loved
that he
it.
got after Roman won and everything. And then I always love that walk when they do stadium shows. That walk to the ring is so long. And they have to keep cutting back and forth. And how Brock was wearing this tight black tank top and jeans with his man bun and a beard and bleached blonde hair that he has. And it was great to see that. And then when he gets in the ring and he was posing and everything, I was like, this Brock is going to be really great for this run.
I don't know if he's going to be a babyface or not, but I think the fans are going to cheer because they hate Roman so much.
Yeah. And then the other
Without-
side of this is Becky's return, which was great initially. And then you get in the ring, and she's cutting a promo saying,
Good and bad.
let's tear down the house. And then you have a 26-second match where she wins. So, to me, that's not... I mean, I know you want to turn her heel, but you don't have to do it that way.
This star that you built up in Bianca Belair, you just made it all seem like you did it for nothing, and that she means nothing.
Right.
That's what bothers me. All the hard work that, Bianca put in since WrestleMania, and even beforehand, from the Rumble leading up to Mania. You're trying to get her over, and Becky comes back and beats her in 26 seconds. If she can do that to the champion, what does it say about the other women in your locker room? What, Becky beat them in 10 seconds instead?
Right.
I don't know where they're going with it, and I'm sure we'll eventually find out, but as of now, as a fan, I just don't understand why do that to Bianca, because it could have been a really good match.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed on how everything played out with Becky's return. It was a weird moment because you had Carmella come out, and you could tell that the fans were confused and disappointed because they thought they were going to get a Sasha Banks match. And like we talked about off air, they, up until the last minute, were pushing that thing like it was going to happen. And then as they get the match in the ring, they say, okay, it's not going to happen. And then Carmella comes out. The fans get distressed looking. I saw a couple guys in the front row that looked like they wanted to go ask for their money back. And all of a sudden, Becky's music hits. Everything goes crazy. Everybody's happy. They, like Jeremy said, they're acting like they're going to tear the house down, have this big match. And then she loses in 2 moves. And I just felt, I went from being a good moment to where I just felt bad afterwards. So I just was like, okay, well, now I'm just feel bad for Bianca. And I don't even really care about Becky coming back. Because now I feel bad for Bianca.
Yeah, it's like they know Sasha, so the fans are bummed. Then Carmella comes out, fans are even more bummed now. And then you get Becky, you bring him back up. Squash Bianca, you bring him back down.
It was a roller coaster
It's
of
the
emotions.
WWE roller coaster is what I like. Yeah. So it's WWE roller coaster, I like to call it. It's how they get you to almost walk away and then, bring it back in the fold.
As we start to wrap up the show today, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Just going into the fall this year with the possibility of Daniel Bryan coming back. And let's be honest, we're all pretty certain he's going to turn up sooner than later, especially off recent hints by CM Punk. But how do you guys think this year is going to be as far as, clearly the whole NXT versus AEW thing didn't work out. And now, that they have guys like CM Punk on AEW, that they would never, at this point, they would probably never beat them in a ratings war. But where do you see AEW going from here as far as actually being a legitimate competition for Raw and SmackDown? Because I cut a lot of people's hair and see a lot of people during the week, and people tell me all the time, hey, I saw that AEW company. It kind of reminds me of wrestling when I was a kid. And that's kind of what they're going for. And they're getting old fans back that used to watch wrestling, even if it was 7 years ago when CM Punk was originally popular.
I think, and I also hope, that it's going to become another war. And I only hope that because it forces both shows to do better. And as a fan of both companies and just wrestling overall, that's a win-win.
I
agree. I think for me, AEW is going to have to figure out the balance between getting those new big, or signing those big stars like Punk and Bryan, and then also how they mix them in with their talent that they created. And I think that's just going to be a huge part of how they keep the viewers, the new viewers who come from CM Punk or Daniel Bryan, and if they can keep those throughout the year. Because then the ratings will go up from like they're at 1.12, I think, from this last Dynamite. Then if they get up to 1.5, then they start to get serious. Then
That's why I was surprised that they were opening, like we were saying in the beginning of the show, that they were opening up Dynamite with Orange Cassidy and Matt Hardy. And just reiterating one more time, you have all those new eyes, and you go with the comedy wrestling as your first, your first attempt and the first thing people are seeing. They know who Matt Hardy is, and you're going to have your people that say, oh, I know who that is. I remember him. But I just thought it was a really weird choice to go with. And if they keep doing things like that, I don't see them maintaining all the hot momentum that they have. Even though you have all these stars. I mean, we've seen this before. And if you look at the Impact roster, TNA Impact roster in 2009 to 2011, it's as stacked as any wrestling company ever was. But there was decisions that were made that never helped it get to where it needed to be. So I'm hoping, like Jeremy's saying, that they figure out that balance of where to put the indie haha stuff, and then where to put the, hey, like, this is what we're really about, and this is the meat and potatoes of the show.
So after SummerSlam this weekend, the next night we had Takeover. Just want to talk about a couple things from it. Number one, Elia Draganov versus Walter 2. Elia has finally dethroned Walter
What a
and
match.
is now the champion, or you could say the Czar is what he's going by. But great match. Loved it. Their first match was a classic. The second one was a classic. It could have been the main event and closed out the show if they really wanted to, but it was great. What you guys think?
yeah, I love Walter's matches just because he gets smacked, and also he smacks his opponent so much. Like,
So hard, dude. Everyone's chest after
man.
wrestling Walter is just, the blood is just coming to the surface.
Yeah. This is amazing to watch. And there's like, if he has that in it, I love it every single time. So this match was like one of my favorites on the show, and probably the favorite.
And Elia can dish it out and take it just as much.
Yeah, which makes it even better.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tim?
Those are two tough dudes right there, let me say. I'm giving the match 4.5 stars. I didn't give it the full 5 just because I was being picky with the finish. I thought the MMA style tap out of nowhere. I understand it fits the style.
It really was out of nowhere.
Yeah. I thought it was building. I thought the match was building to this big crescendo moment, and then it's almost like it burned out too quick. Like it's just stopped. But it was God, it was so good. I thought it lived up to the first match during the pandemic era. And man, those guys just really, really go hard when they wrestle each other. And I love both of them. They're awesome. Two of my favorite people to watch in 2021. Any other NXT stuff we should go over?
Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole, 2 out of 3
Oh,
falls.
yeah.
We had a regular singles match, then a street fight, and it ended with a steel cage, and Kyle O'Reilly won the best 2 out of 3 falls. And I believe, since Adam Cole's contract is up and he hasn't re-signed anything, as of now, he is a free agent. So we'll have to see where he goes, but that rivalry has been really good. This is the third time they've gone up against each other at a pay-per-view, and this is, or was, the end of it. So we'll have to see where Adam Cole goes next, but I'm sure it'll be somewhere big. Probably AEW for all I know.
Everything Adam Cole does, to me, I love it. But yeah, I'm sure he's probably going to AEW, I think, based off of what WWE is planning on doing with NXT, and also how they're revamping it of what they
He's
want.
got lots of friends over there, too,
Yeah.
It all makes sense. And his girlfriend.
Right. Yeah. And he did her move during the match too.
I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, I thought the match was really good. I gave it 3.5 stars. I think for me, it's just like we've seen so much of this of just the Undisputed Era, the feud, the fallout for the last 2 years, basically. I'm personally ready to see Adam Cole do something else, and I'm very glad that it doesn't seem as if it's going to be on either Raw or SmackDown. He's probably knows he's better suited going somewhere where he can be fully appreciated. And with that, let's kind of close out with, just like off the cuff feelings. How do you guys feel about NXT changing and kind of rebranding and going a different direction? I'm personally bummed about it. What about you? What about you, Andy?
I'm scared. If we're being honest, I'm scared because if it's a Vince decision of where it goes, I can only imagine. Vince loves big men. Just say that. Vince loves his big wrestlers, his big guys, and I think when this first came out, the whole rumor was no more small guys and no more guys, I think, starting wrestling above their 30s or something like that.
Yeah.
They really want to cut it out, but it's supposed to be happening soon, so we'll have to see.
They taped like 3 NXT shows in a row just so they can able to revamp it now and like redesign everything. So I'm really curious to see what they do. I don't really like this decision. One of the things I thought was interesting was Tony Khan right around the time that what's his name, the other Khan in WWE, gave that interview, and kind
I think it's Nick Khan.
Yeah, Nick Khan, and mentioned that they're changing that way. Tony Khan was basically like saying wrestling is an art form, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. So you kind of just have to let whoever they want to be. And to me, that's what wrestling really is.
Thank you, Tony Khan. I 100% agree.
What do you think of the direction?
I'm slightly disappointed just because I really love the era pretty much all the way from Seth Rollins and a young Roman Reigns in the beginning, right after FCW, all the way up until the later Undisputed Era stuff. I mean, I thought all of NXT, if you put that all in a time capsule, I think that'll almost be like the part 1 of NXT, and whatever's coming next will be the the new era, basically. But for me, if I could go back, if if DVDs or if that format was still a thing, I'd go back and buy all that era of NXT, because I feel like that's a special time in wrestling in general, and how many stars came from that. Well, with that being said, guys, let's close out the show here. I want to thank everyone for listening to the PW Fan, and join us next week where we talk about all things wrestling.